Welcome back to another one of Dave D's Random Watch. This time I did pick something from here. What did I end up picking out? Well, when I read my handwriting, I thought it said Transformers, and I was like, oh crap, I don't know if I want to watch this. Luckily, it was Terminator 3 to be exact. Now, the reason why I didn't do part 1 or 2, I've seen those enough times, several times. I'm one of those rare people that actually like Terminator 1 better than Terminator 2, but don't get me wrong, Terminator 2 is still a very amazing film. Top 20 kind of thing, top 25. But the first one, due to the fact that I like horror films and scary stuff, the first one follows that Night Stalker formula. So Terminator, I just watched that like about a couple months ago, and then we watched Terminator 2. So the way I have this written out for films with franchises like that, I'll have it said Terminator, and then I have part 1 and 2 crossed off, and then now I crossed off 3 and I put it back, and then next time we draw a Terminator, it'll be 4, 5, which is really 2, and then 6, which is now really 3. These movies are going to get convoluted as they go along, but that's okay because we start with Terminator 3. Terminator 3 is one of those that waited for so long. James Cameron wasn't coming back, and even if he did, he didn't do any help to it. This time they had a couple writers, and they had a director, Jonathan Mostow, who did a war submarine movie, U-571, and they managed to get Schwarzenegger back. $30 million, I think his pay was, but he gave $10 million of that back so they could do a stunt that he thought was really cool. Yeah, so he really got paid $20 million for a movie. The Hollywood guys, some of your salaries are out of whack. So I waited. I'm a sequel friendly person. I'm not one of those that, oh, they're making a sequel to this. How could they? It's the original and the original only. And you'll find out that I do like remakes as well, because some remakes add something to the story. And in some cases, some remakes don't. I really wish they would remake Terminator and start from scratch. But right now we're going to talk about Terminator 3, The Rise of the Machines. And what I liked about this movie, there's actually quite a bit I liked about it. So I'm not one of those that, which one is worse, Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, or Terminator Genesis. Watch myself, because I don't call it Genesis, if you know what I mean. But Terminator 3, for one, Schwarzenegger still looks decent. He still looks appropriate to play the role of the Terminator in this film. My understanding, he had to work out like crazy to get back into shape for it, and then he threw out his arm when he did that thing with the gun like that. He's an old man even when he did part 3. I saw part 3 in the theater. It was above expectations. Some people want to call it a comedy. Yeah, they had some stuff in there, like the T-800 ends up at a strip club on ladies' night. Ha ha ha, very funny movie. But on all, it wasn't, it's not out of character for the situation. He got his clothes, luckily. And so we got the movie, starts John Connor. His life is not what he thought it would be. They did stop Judgment Day in 1997. It's now 2003. He's on the run, living off the grid, and then eventually everything catches up to him. He meets Kate Brewster, somebody supposedly he was destined to be with since he was a child. And so they end up in the mix together while they're both being hunted by the TX, the female Terminator, which is pretty inventive. I like Christina Loken's portrayal of the Terminator. It reminds me very much of Robert Patrick, but with her being a woman, there is this extra touch to it, especially in an era that didn't really kind of tell you about it all the time. They just did it. They were like, hey, she's a woman Terminator. Great. I remember people were making fun of it. Even James Cameron was kind of making fun of it, but I think in the end it worked out. And so she's on the hunt, not only just for Connor, but his wife, which is like his lieutenant. They're not married. They're married in the future. They're just, but she's a lieutenant, and then his other lieutenants. And that was a fantastic touch to the Terminator mythos was, yeah, the Terminator goes back in the original movie to prevent just John Connor, but this one went back in time and she had a full mission to wipe out his lieutenants, because some of those lieutenants could have gave him some ideas to win the war. I love that idea. That's great. Not enough credit goes to it because everyone wants to point out the bad. And so they go on their adventure, and then we end up back in the military base, and they're debating on whether or not to start Skynet up. And Skynet is we thought they stopped it, but of course I think they didn't say it in the movie, but I think it would make sense that even though Cyberdyne was developing this stuff, I'm pretty sure the military had the files for it, and this is what they did in the movie. Was they're getting ready to fire it up because there's a virus going around, and they don't know what to do, and so they fire it up, and well, we all know what happens there. As the movie's getting closer to the end, John Connor believes he can save the world, and then they end up going to Crystal Peak because he thinks that's where the computers are going to be to shut it down, and not so lucky. In fact, the movie kind of ends in a big downer. I mean, the previous movies kind of lead on the hope of stopping the future from happening, especially part 2. And then the movie ends with nuclear weapons blowing up all over the world. That's pretty gutsy for 2003, only 2 years after 9/11. When everybody was on edge back in those days. That was pretty gutsy. Hope I didn't spoil anything with that ending, but that's how the movie ended. And I thought it was a fitting end for part 3. Everything flowed from part 1, part 2, part 3. And from memory serves correctly, part 4 is added into that. The only difference is we have a different John Connor. Every movie's got a different John Connor, except for the 6-ish one, but again, that's a whole different thing that we're talking about there. Every movie's got a different John Connor. Nick Stahl played this John Connor, and he did really good. In fact, I was just a little disappointed he didn't come back for part 4, but kind of like the other actor who played John Connor, he was having issues with either substance abuse or just he didn't act anymore. I don't know what the deal was, or he was problematic. So they didn't want to waste their time with him. So for the next film, they got Christian Bale, who famously blew up on some camera guy on set on that one. So must be a cursed role. But we have John Connor played by Nick Stahl. He did a good job in this movie. I don't, for one, forget that it's not Edward Furlong from part 2. He adapted to the role. And Schwarzenegger was fine. Like I said, this should have been his last Terminator movie, because at this point in his life, he still looked like he could do the role. And anything after that, with the exception of 4, he's not in it, sort of. But especially with Genesis, because I haven't seen Dark Fate yet. But Genesis, you know, that was not right. But I can't properly analyze or look at that movie because I haven't seen it recently, and I might. It's going to take another Terminator movie before I get to it, so the odds are like in my favor that I won't see it for quite a while. And so the couple issues with the movie that I had was, and I don't know what it is, but movies, for whatever reason, they can never get it right with time, age gaps. Now, they did mention, like, they mentioned everything with postponement of Judgment Day. That made sense. Okay, I can buy that. I can buy that. It didn't happen in 97 because most of the work was destroyed, the stuff that was leading the work, and then you get to 2003 when they finally were able to make sense of the stuff themselves at the military. I think I said 97 because they never really tell you when Terminator 2 takes place, but if you were to take a look at the age of John Connor, my understanding is you're looking at somewhere between 95 and 97, and that would make more sense than 2003, subtract 10 years. John Connor says 10 years ago this, 10 years ago that. 1993, even though the film came out in 91, I don't buy that time either, because you're looking at John Connor being, what, 7, 8 years old in part 1? No, he's 13. 13 would fit better in the 1997-96 time frame. So people making sequels, please watch the previous movie. Do the simple math. I mean, it's not as bad as that horrendous one for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What do they call it? Texas Chainsaw, I think. It was supposed to be the part 2 to the original, and they kept trying to tell us it took place 20 years ago, when in fact, if you did the math, it would be 40 years ago. So nothing made sense in that. So I hate when movies do that. They just watch the previous movie and be true to how old something would be. It's not that hard. Just watch the first movie. I mean, it's simple. But overall, I do like Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. It's a good entry into the franchise. It works great with part 1, part 2, and part 4 fits into it. Once we get to 5, which is Genesis and Dark Fate, that's when they start making a mess of things. But until then, I guess that's just the only thing I'll say about those films. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, great movie. Check it out if you're someone who saw it years ago. Give it another view. I mean, just being honest here, sometimes when you see nothing but crap movies pumped out over and over and over again, and most of them are the same storyline, a movie like Terminator 3 doesn't look that bad anymore. And I think time did good with this film, so give Terminator 3 a check that one out again. Until next time, we'll... Hey, how's it going? Well, as you can see, this bucket is empty. I had to dump everything out because last week I had my daughter pick out a movie, and she picked out something that she cannot watch. So we're going to let her pick out the movie. She's going to have to give it to me because she probably can't read my handwriting, because sometimes I can barely read mine. So let's find out what tonight's movie is. Hopefully you can watch it, or maybe we just won't tell anybody that you watched it with me. Alright, so tonight's movie, because we have to stay up tonight because we got to go out, pick someone up at 10. Tonight's movie you can't watch that one, Maggie. I picked out The Joker. Out of all the movies Out of all the movies that I might let her slide to watch, she picks out the Joker.
Watch.
So, what I did was I separated everything. I have the everybody can watch pile. A few R-rated movies in there, but I think suitable for everyone. And then the me only pile, which is really not that much in there, and that is for me, or if I think they could be suitable for some of the people in the household to watch, they can watch it. I will, if I don't think anybody can watch it, or if someone's watching Transformer shows and I don't want to, I'll just pick from here and go in my room and watch one of these. So let's see which movie it is we're going to be watching tonight. Tonight, we are watching Due Date, a comedy. All right, I think we can do that one.